Hayabusa 1300R.
So what is this 2013 Suzuki Hayabusa 1300R? Well, it's a lot of things, a little bit complicated of a question. But if I were to compare this motorcycle to cars, these are the cars that come to mind. Something like a C63 AMG, one of the Black Series cars, or perhaps a top-of-the-line Bentley. So what is the pattern here? Luxury, performance, and a GT experience, Grand Touring. And that is absolutely what this motorcycle is. You can either be on a 300, 400, 500, or whatever amount of mile journey on this bike with the power mode in C, very tame power response, and the suspension just soaking up all the bumps, the weight of the bike just making you feel really secure and confident, sitting nicely on the road, a nice solid, handling on the highway. And with all that combined and the way the engine just purrs, because it has so much power, you don't need high RPMs on the highway, so you could be just low RPMs, just purring like a kitten, just cruising on the highway. You got that big screen on the front, you can duck down behind it, get away from the wind. That's your GT experience. Very sedate, very luxurious in terms of the suspension, the way it feels, and a nice big comfy seat. And you're just having a good time watching the road and all the scenery going by, and not a care in the world. Just living the life on the Hayabusa 1300R. Or you can go all hoodlum. Switch it to mode A, get the full power. And beware, that front end will pick up on you at any speed. 100 miles per hour, 130, 150, doesn't matter. Any speed, anytime. This bike has tons of power, tons of torque, and if you're not careful, it will bite you. It will bite your head off, or take you to dinner at a classy 5-star restaurant.
Hayabusa 1300R, and the R stands for, are you good enough to handle this bike? Actually, in the past, that's kind of been the impression that people have had of the Hayabusa bikes. Very powerful bike, and it can be somewhat intimidating. But let's first get one thing out of the way. Absolutely not a beginner's bike. That is without question. This is not a good beginner's bike. We're talking about over 500 pounds. Now, for someone who's getting used to riding a motorcycle, you don't want to tip this sucker over. Good luck trying to get it back up by yourself. So, for that reason and many others, and also the intense, extreme power, you're talking about having a lot of torque and grunt at any speed. This bike is an excellent bike for a mid-level to an advanced rider who is looking for a sport bike. So you want that nimble handling, you want that rapid acceleration, you want that excitement, that adrenaline. Well, that's what you got right here in the Hayabusa 1300R, which right now is one of the most powerful production bikes that you can get. The only thing that you can get right now, production bike that can beat this as far as power, top speed, acceleration, is going to be the Kawasaki ZX-14, but that motorcycle is only slightly faster. So what does that mean? That means a better rider on a Hayabusa can still beat the ZX-14. If you're looking to be on one of the fastest, most powerful bikes, this is the bike for you, but it doesn't stop there. What is my attraction to this bike? First of all, I don't like big bikes. That's not my style. You know that already. I like smaller bikes. This is not the kind of bike that I would traditionally want to buy or even consider because of the weight. I want something that's nimble and has good handling. So I'm looking at something like this, I'm automatically assuming that this bike is not going to handle well. It's a big old heavy bike, and a lot of people probably thinking that. But you know what? I was pleasantly surprised. This bike handles very well considering the weight. I mean, it was well at home in the twisties. The only problem in twisties is it is a heavy bike. That's one thing you cannot get around. It is a heavy bike. So what does that mean? That means if you're in a turn and you're going downhill and you know you've got to brake really hard for a sharper turn that's coming up ahead, you may feel a little nervous about the weight and being able to stop, and you may have to apply a lot of effort to the braking. Depending on how many fingers you use, I realized that 3 fingers is what you want to use here. Unlike with the Daytona 675R, 1 finger, 2 finger. Here you want to use 3 fingers. But here's the thing about that. Let's talk about the additions to this new bike, 2013. What's new on this bike? First thing I'm going to mention, relevant to what we're talking about, is the braking system. You've got the addition of ABS. And with a powerful bike like this, you definitely want to have that. So think about that same scenario. You know, you got all this weight, all this mass that you have to come to a stop or slow down for your turn. But you know what? It's nice to know they got ABS. So, you know, you can feel confident gripping that brake and getting that maximum stopping power that you need to get down to your speed to get into the turn. So that's an excellent thing that they added to the bike. Now, if we go into further detail, if you look at the front brakes here, look at what we have here. We have Brembo. That is definitely a welcomed addition to this bike. It is a heavy bike, takes a lot of power to stop this bike. So having the upgraded brakes is awesome. And it's not just Brembo, but it's monoblock. So that's going to give you something that's a lot more rigid and more lightweight. This is a single piece as opposed to 2 separate pieces that are bolted together. This is a thicker caliper as well. Improved stopping power, and you've got the addition of the technology of the ABS system, which is going to help to save your butt when you're going way too fast and you need to slow way down and you don't want to lock up the front brakes. Well, guess what? ABS. That's what you got for the 2013 Suzuki Hayabusa. Hayabusa. This bike is for someone like me who I like nimble bikes. I like great handling and twisty roads and technical roads, but I also like to go long distance rides. Now, I took the Daytona 675R. We went from Las Vegas to Los Angeles and actually pulled it off. Doing it on this bike. Wow. This is how you want to do it. Now, the best way I can describe how this bike feels on the highway doing such a long run is I can't exaggerate this. I mean, I really felt like I was flying, and I don't mean like how fast I was going. It's just something about the level of security and comfort you have. I mean, you got a lot of weight on this bike, so it sits nice and solid on the road, and its suspension is also very nice, so it soaks up the bumps and things like that. So that's a very good thing in terms of when you're going on a long distance trip, which is awesome. And it's also you feel very secure and safe on this because of the weight and how stable it is. And again, it's very comfortable, very quiet, and just very, very civilized. And that's really the way we like it. So awesome for long distance riding. Also awesome for twisty roads if you want to go up in the mountains and stuff like that. It's very nimble, and it's just a well-rounded bike.
Absolutely just eats up the highway, any speed. You're flying. 6th gear, you're pulling hard. 5th gear, pulling hard. I mean, whatever gear, power is always there. And again, it's comfortable, it's quiet, it's smooth transmission, smooth engine. Because so much power, you can have the RPMs low, so it's just purring like a kitten on the highway. You can even be moving pretty quickly and cutting through traffic or whatever. If you want to move, if you really have to go to the bathroom or something first, for example, you can be flying and really accelerating in 6th gear and being smooth the whole time, never screaming, never getting aggressive, never getting crazy, never really even tapping into the RPMs or the power band, just keeping it all low and smooth, but yet still flying, still pulling, still accelerating. That is the Suzuki Hayabusa 1300R. Are you man enough for that experience? Well, if you are, I highly recommend you pick one of these bikes up, and I think you'll definitely enjoy it. It's not a lightweight bike at all, but for what it is, wow. In one word, wow. Motorcycle reviews, information, and education.
This quick shifter is nice too.
All right here on Carlyle's Picks. Go ahead and click on the subscribe button and join in on the fun.